We'll now open the Revere Licensing Commission meeting. Before we get to the special public hearing, there is one thing on the agenda that we want to address, and that is Wonderland Ballroom. Please state your name for the record, please. Great. And
Is the mic on?
yeah, please hit the mic. So you're applying for a special one-day license?
Yes.
Hey, can
yes.
you tell us a little bit about what you're planning to do and
Yes.
safeguards you're going to put in place?
Yeah, Jose Calderon, it's a Colombian artist, and he is a young artist that is more like he's a crooner, so it's more of a sit-down affair for everybody, and he's more on the idea of a Ricky Martin kind of style guy. So it's a very low-key, very nice event that we'd like to have.
Okay, and can you tell me what your plans are in terms of security? How are you going to deal with people going in and out, what age brackets, those kinds of things?
Yes, the people that will come in that will be underage will be stamped on their hands under 21. The people that are over 21 will be wristband and also stamped. So, and as far as anybody having a cup in their hand, if somebody has a cup in their hand that are under 21, it'll be a clear cup, and we'll have plenty of staff on, and we've done this before many times, and we're very successful too.
Okay, and what do you plan on doing in terms of security at the ballroom?
How many? Well, we're also going to have, we also will have 2 police details, 1 fire department. As we mostly do all our events, we always have police and fire there. And there'll be plenty of security, probably 15 security, and 2 managers.
Any, what do you plan in terms of patrons going in and out of the establishment? How do you plan to deal with that?
Well, no one can go in and out. The only thing they can do is they can go out to a little spot where they can smoke, but there's all security there. No one can come in, no one can go out. So once you're in, you're in. If you leave, you leave.
So is that a designated area where somebody from outside of the club?
It'll be a designated area right outside.
Yeah, we usually have it roped off.
And who will be overseeing that area?
There'll be doormen.
Security.
Door staff, yes. It's really a very low-key artist.
Can you tell me how many do you expect to have at this event?
Probably about 700.
700. Which room will you be using for
The
that?
big room,
The main ballroom.
the ballroom.
And I notice you say here 18 plus women only. Did I read that correctly?
Well, that's what we'd like to have, but if you want to give it to us for men and women, we'll take it.
No, I was just curious why that was down, women
Well,
only.
he's more of a crooner, and it's the women just flock to see this man. Guys really wouldn't be going to see him unless they were a date or whatever. So, like I say, he's more on the idea of a Ricky Martin style kind of guy.
Okay. And these 18-year-old women will be wearing wristbands?
They'll be stamped under 21 on their hand. The people that are over 21 will have the wristbands.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Will you be having any other events at the ballroom while this is going on?
That's the only event that night.
Just, what's the hours of the event?
8 to 1.
8 to 1. So 12:30, alcohol stops?
Yes, more or less, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
More, right?
I'm sorry?
Oh, more or less it's...
Yes, 12:30.
Oh, okay.
Questions?
I have no other questions.
And do you know if any of these events with this artist has had any issues elsewhere?
Any problems?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Like I say, it's a very low-key singer. And matter of fact, I was watching videotapes of him before I came here, and it's just more of a love song kind of guy.
Okay. All right.
Just a quick question. So what's the cover charge?
What will the cover charge be?
I believe it's 45. I'd have to double check, but I
It's
believe
about $45.
It's typically at the door?
Yeah, either that or they buy tickets in advance.
Okay.
Yes.
And you have measures in place for protection of those? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cash there, so there's measures in place to make sure that's
why we
secure.
always have 2 details in a fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody want to speak on, in favor of this event? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close that side. Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close that side. I will make a motion to approve the one-day license.
Thank you so much.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good luck. We'll now open the public hearing for the change to licensing and of the all pouring licenses. Would you please state your name for the record, please?
Attorney Lawrence Simeone, 300 Broadway, Revere, Massachusetts. This afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have the privilege of representing Mr. Vincent Giacchetti, as the treasurer of the Revere Restaurant and Bar Association, which was established sometime in 2008, shortly after the rollback. I've provided letters to the secretary, letters dealing with economic effect by several owners. I'm wondering if the chairman has seen those letters.
I have not, but I would ask you to read those into the record for the audience as well.
Okay. And then also I submitted 6 exhibits which were used by me back in 2009 when I submitted an application on behalf of 5 licensees, and the board would not allow that particular application to go forward. Those 5 exhibits established the records of the board from January 10, 2008, as well as a letter, the most recent determination on this issue by the previous commission on that particular matter. So if you haven't seen them, I'll make sure that you're provided them. As Mr. Chairman, my members are here to testify before this honorable commission. You know, they're here to tell you that, you know, since January 10th, 2008, when the prior commission rolled back the closing hours, which took effect in July of 2008, that this vote affected every single 2 o'clock holder, whether he or she was a good license holder or a bad license holder. That all pouring establishments, in accordance with 138, Section 12, who had 2 o'clock licenses, were immediately rolled back to 1 o'clock. Since that time, 5 years ago, these individual owners and operators of bars and restaurants in this city that had 2 o'clock licenses have suffered grave economic loss and injury. Combined, they've in excess of millions of dollars. So these letters that they provided you will attest to that. Millions of dollars worth of lost revenue to the businesses and millions of dollars in lost revenue and income to the city of Revere. Also during this period, these individuals have had to operate their businesses in an atmosphere of unfair competition. As a result, they've lost hundreds of jobs along with their revenue, jobs lost in a time when they were most needed in this Commonwealth, not only to the industry, but to the city of Revere. Some of these restaurants did not weather the storm. They closed because they could not meet the financial obligation as a result of the impact of this previous action by the commission. Maggio's is no longer available. It was a restaurant that was around for years. The Dublin is closed. 338 Squire Road has now been sold. Red's Cafe has been sold. The Sons of Italy has now been changed over from its previous hands because its previous owners couldn't sustain their financial burden. And the Wharf, some of the best restaurants that we had, just couldn't make it, having lost that income. The commission has unfettered discretion in this area. The law is clear. As long as you don't make decisions that are arbitrary and capricious, I invite you to take that discretion and use it in a police manner. Long before we decided to roll back hours, this commission took each and every individual on their merit and dealt with them. And if they were a poor business owner, and caused a public problem, they were dealt with accordingly. And I suggest that this commission go back to that standard, that you have the discretion to determine who the meritorious owners who have the right and the need to have this particular license, and those who meet the bar, and those who don't. Simply put, you will hear from my clients that during their time, these last 5 years, they have suffered significant hardship. That it's not simply closing at 1 o'clock. The average owner will tell you that patrons begin to leave his facility at 11:30 p.m. because they want to move either to another community or another venue. And so it's not just a loss of an hour from 1 to 2 o'clock. They start losing them almost 2 hours before any particular problem happens. So they lose a significant amount of business, not just liquor, but also food. Now, the patrons who want to come to a late game, a hockey game, and God only knows we've had plenty of late hockey games, don't come to Revere, okay, because there's a 1 o'clock license, and you know, these days, if the Boston Bruins are playing like they are, you're over 1 o'clock. If there's a third shift in the area, third shifters don't come to Revere. They'll go to a neighboring community in Malden or Saugus or Boston. And if you're having a party and your party might go beyond 1 o'clock, it's a family get-together or it's a party to celebrate something, they don't even come to these people. These people have lost business and they have lost patrons simply because they can't compete with the people from the north and the south. In January 10th, 2008, I submitted 6 exhibits that support that, and I'd ask you to look at them when you have a chance. The effect, what I call the Lynn effect, Commissioner Pepe at the vote to roll back the hours added something to the rollback. He added an addendum, and that addendum said that it wouldn't take effect until July, which allowed the commission an opportunity, whether they knew it or not, to evaluate what the effect would be from the fact that other communities like Lynn, who had just rolled back their hours, whether they actually would come to Revere for those 6 months before Revere actually rolled back its hours. And the evidence that I've submitted to you and the evidence that I've talked with the previous administration about was that with respect to what I consider some of the licensees I presented to the commission, licensees, by virtue of the fact the commission's own writing that I've presented to you in exhibit number 2, have determined that these licensees, Bill Ash, I promoted the Esquire Club, Shipwreck Lounge, North Shore Cafe, that these licensees were determined, notwithstanding the rollback, to be, in the words of the commission and then Chairman Henneberry, to be good citizens. And that letter is in your package. So my argument then, 2009, was the argument I make to you now, is that these were good citizens, and good citizens shouldn't be punished. They should stand on their own merit. They should be able to earn like other people in the region. They should not be able to go to work every day with one hand tied behind their back. They should be able to compete fairly. Now, in this particular case, the quote-unquote Lynn effect was that from January 1st, 2008 to July 1st, 2008, there were a total of 22 calls made. That's calls made that were calls made out to the police for some particular manner amongst 5 or 6 of the best. It was negligible. Most of these calls are calls of have nothing to do with like assault and batteries or disturbances. They could be public assistance calls and a variety of things. And if you look at the evidence that I provided you, which is attached to each one of the exhibits, not only will you find the commissioner's records that we were gleaned through and worked on, but you also find the police department records. The point is that back in January of 2008, there was a rush to judgment in my mind, and And I think what happened was you didn't get the picture that you should have gotten, i.e. the previous commission. In Peabody, and that's what they referred to, the Peabody case. It's called the Pronghome case. In that case, the Peabody Licensing Commission took testimony, allowed people to be cross-examined, allowed commissioners to question, and they made a judgment based on empirical evidence. In January 10th, 2008, the only thing you saw, and I refer you to your own records, which I've marked exhibit number 1, the only thing you got in those records, and I suggest again, especially to the new commissioners, no disrespect to Commissioner Guanasso, that you will see that a random view of evidence was provided. A scant random view of evidence was provided by then, I think it's Mike Murphy, who was captain at the time. And then Mayor Ambrosino said, using his words, we don't need to wait for empirical evidence. You can imagine how astonished I was, considering that I think Tommy Ambrosino is a heck of a lawyer, and I've litigated with him. And the commission didn't balk. You need evidence. You need to move on evidence. That's what the law says. You need to make a determination of need, and you need to move on evidence. Today we're going to try to give you some of that evidence on our issue. And our issue before you, Mr. Chairman, is whether or not there is a need to amend the closing hours for pouring establishments. That's how you frame the question before you, this honorable body today. As to that issue, I can tell you that this community is served by dedicated small businessmen and women in the restaurant and bar industry, that many of the owners have owned their establishments for decades, that they only seek an opportunity to compete against Malden, Saugus, East Boston. Specifically, the evidence is clear. In Malden, you have the Rain Cafe, 2 o'clock license. In Malden, you have Dockside, 2 o'clock license. In Saugus, you have Maddie's on the weekends. They're a 2 o'clock license. You have Kowloon, 2 o'clock license. In East Boston, you have Javelli's, Kelly's Pub, and the Cosmopolitan. These are all places to the north and the south, and that's where the business is going. It's not hanging in after 11:30 to these people trying to help. They want a chance to compete against those people, and I think they should be given the opportunity. And this commission should police their management style under that responsibility. They have been asked to survive the last 5 years and fend off what amounts to be people who are just chipping away at their business. Some of them have lost so much business that they're barely even afloat. And they need to rehire employees. They need the extra money that they will tell you they get from the 1 hour that they work. They need to hire employees to compete. They need money to invest into their businesses and their bars to make them, upgrade their facilities. They need to create jobs here in Revere, Mr. Chairman, not in Boston. That's where we need jobs. I say that they serve not only their clients, but they serve the citizens of Revere by being hardworking small business people. I know that each and every one of them wants to participate in the economic growth that Mayor Rizzo and John Fester and the team that is working so hard to bring in casino development, other development, they want to participate in that. They don't want to be put on the sidelines. They feel that they can serve they can serve good product, good food, good drink, as good as any place in the Boston metropolitan area. That's what they want. That's what they're asking you for, that opportunity. I ask you as their counsel to judge each and every one of them on the merits, give each and every one the opportunity. As to the issue of need, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, these bar owners need to regain the income that they lost. They need to regain the hundreds of jobs that they lost. They need to be able to participate in the economic growth that this city looks forward to having. They just would like a chance, and I'd ask you to give them that chance. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask each and every one of them that wants to speak. I'd suggest that you ask them questions. I'll do the best I can to assist them. I asked them to talk about their own businesses as opposed to generic issues that I've talked about, and I stand ready to answer any of the commission's questions as the hearing goes on. Mr.
I would
Giacchetti?
just, at this point, Counsel, I'd just like to make a couple of clarifications.
Sure.
I was one that was on the board, so talking about the past board, which was Commissioner Henneberry and Commissioner Pepe, who were wonderful colleagues of mine, and I was on the board. The clarification that we didn't investigate, I personally did. I investigated what was going on in Malden, Chelsea, and Lynn. Malden, when you speak of a 2 o'clock license, yes, they do have a 2 o'clock license, but lockdown is 12:30. If you're not in that establishment by 12:30, you cannot enter the building. And they're grandfathered in. Should you go for a new license, it is 1 o'clock. And as far as Captain Murphy, he did bring us quite a bit of information from other cities and towns, and we had a lot of input before rolling these hours back. I don't want people to leave here thinking that I just said 1 o'clock, we'll roll them back. And I think everyone that's in this room today knows 5, 6 years ago, there were big problems going on with some of the clubs. Granted, some of the clubs have closed, and I appreciate that. I'll leave that at, but I think they even know. We were having problems. The police department was overburdened with calls 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You have a 2 o'clock closing, you know, till 3 o'clock they're cleaning up the streets. Is this a different time? Maybe. But I just wanted to make that clear at that time. You know, out of respect to my colleagues, the information we were giving at that time, our best judgment was to roll the hours back. And I think it was a need be, and every department agreed with us, including surrounding areas.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Commissioner. I agree that times have changed, and it would be great to have the Commission take a good look at this issue. I also agree that the minutes of that meeting can be read by anybody, and they can each one take away from what they want. I mean, Mr. Murphy's analysis of 5 randomly selected people, in my professional opinion, doesn't reach the standards that the Commonwealth would ask for.
That wasn't the final decision. I'm just telling you the input from everyone. I agree with you. 5, we have 43 liquor licenses.
They could have picked
and
one
5
facility and nailed them.
And I understand that. But I'm saying we took it as a whole.
Well, unfortunately for my clients, they all got affected as a whole, and they're here to ask for some reprieve. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
what do you-
Mr. Simeoni, what I would ask is that we'll hear this side of the argument all in favor of, and then we'll hear the other side that are in opposition.
Thank you. Vinny, you want to go up front?
Please state your name for the record, please.
Hello, yes, Vincent Giacchetti, Treasurer of the Revere Restaurant and Bar Association. I've sent you a letter so you know who I am. And I'd like to elaborate on what Mr. Simeoni had brought up. He had brought up some of the establishments that have gone out of business, and he's also elaborated on some of the surrounding establishments in other cities, which are our main competition. He had only mentioned a few of them. Now, I would like to mention some of the other ones. And then I would like to speak on the grandfather clause that Mrs. Ganasso had mentioned. We were also grandfathered in, too, for a 2 a.m. license, open till 2 a.m., and that was taken away for us, so I really don't know what grandfather means when you say grandfather. To me, grandfather means it's grandfathered in, it's yours until you have done something wrong to have been taken away, which we feel we hadn't done anything wrong. Now, some of the bars that are open till 2 a.m., and some of them Mr. Simeoni has already mentioned. Maddie's on weekends. Carlone's has a 2 a.m., which uses it when they have comedy shows and weddings and birthdays and so on and so forth. Town Line Bowling Alley, which is Rain. The Dockside in Malden on Eastern Ave, Spatafora Function Hall on Canal Street in Malden, Everett, Silver Fox, which also once a week does Texas Hold'em games, Shooters on Broadway, Everett, on the corner of Broadway and Ferry Street, has a full nightclub upstairs with 375 occupancy, and has a full bar and restaurant downstairs, and on weekends they stay open even later than 2 because they have a private club downstairs. You got the Whole Wind Chinese restaurant on the Parkway on the corner of Ferry Street and Revere Beach Parkway, which is open Friday and Saturday nights till 2 a.m., has a 2 a.m. license. East Boston, you have Kelly's Pub, which uses it on private parties and functions. You have Spinelli's Function Hall in Day Square in East Boston, which stays open on private functions and weddings and birthday parties. Javelli's has a 2 a.m. license, which stays open till 2 a.m. every night, East Boston. You have nightclubs in East Boston. You have Medallios in Day Square. You have the Cosmopolitan in Day Square. You have the East Boston Yacht Club, which stays open for functions. But that doesn't mean that they stay open till 2 o'clock every night. When they have functions, they stay open later. On weekends, New Year's parties, so on. We can't do that. You have the Don Oreos at the Madonna, which has a full function hall upstairs, which stays open at special functions. Okay. Now, since the rollback has happened in Revere, these are the members that used to be in our association, which we have lost. You have the Wharf, the Dublin, Red's Cafe, Sons of Italy, Ideal Gentlemen's Social Club, Maggio's, the Big Lou, which I'm friendly with the Carusos. They basically sold the business to put the gas station there because it was non-profit. They weren't making any money there, so that's why the Big Lou really went out of business. Revere Businessmen's Association, and one of our members, which used to run a lot of birthday parties, a lot of weddings every weekend, was Piazza Garibaldi. He was one of our main contributors and members. He could no longer survive without doing these parties and functions on weekends. So Piazza Garibaldi is also out of business. And as Mr. Simeone has already elaborated on, and has said, and I'm elaborating on, is a lot of us had depended on third shift. Myself, which owns the Full Rack Smokehouse, which I'm on the East Boston Revere line, I have a lot of air freight business and airport business. They get out at 12 o'clock. It takes them 10 minutes to get to my place. I'm calling last call at 12:30. So how many of them do you think are really coming to me? None of them. They're all going to East Boston, to Javelli's. They have a big airport crowd in Javelli's in East Boston. That used to be my crowd. And also, that's also affected a lot of our businesses on Revere Beach, because some of those airport employees and air freight employees from Ocean Air would go to Revere Beach. They get out of work at 10 past 12. They can be down the beach by 12:15, and they would stay there till 2 a.m. Well, they're not going to bother driving there anymore because they have to leave at 12:30. So why even waste their time? So they go right to East Boston and just stay there. This has been going on now since the rollback, 5 years. So when you see the reports that Mr. Simeone has given you, how much revenues we have lost, and bartenders that have quit. It's hard to find good bartenders if they're not making money. If they're not making money, they don't want to work. So we've been suffering all along, trying to keep the businesses going. And not to mention, now there's all this talk about casinos. So let's assume a casino goes in Suffolk Downs, or maybe even to Everett. What do you think is going to happen there? They're going to have free buffets. They're not going to close at 2 o'clock. They're going to have either a Boston license or they're going to have an Everett license. And if they come in realistically, they're going to have all kinds of functions, free buffets, comps, and everything else. How are we going to compete with this? So, I mean, any place when you go to Atlantic City, any place outside the casino is out of business. The only business is in the casino, because once they got you there, they want to keep you there. We have to compete with this. So we might be coming back in a couple of years looking for a 4 o'clock license, just to be able to survive against these people. Who knows? But right now, we're just dealing with this. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have any questions from the commission?
Just a point of information. As far as the WAF is still owned by the same people. I want
Right.
to clear that up. Maggio's is still owned by the same people.
The building is, but not the
And-
business.
Right. But he can go back there anytime he wants. He
But then-
opted to
But
leave
the people that had the businesses are out of there. The people who own the WAF now are new business owners.
Absolutely.
The same family owns the property and the property, but there's new people who run the
There are
establishment.
new people running it. I'm very familiar
Right.
with that, but they're not willing to give it up either. They're
Right.
still,
They're still
still
trying
hanging in
to
there.
hang on, like the rest of us.
okay, I just wanted to make that clear. In Garibaldi, they turned their license in, Reardon's turned their license in.
Right.
Because they were doing other things, not because we rolled their hours back.
Well-
Because they had stayed in business, and right now, I don't think we want to talk about Garibaldi's.
Well, Garibaldi, who was, like I said, one of our members, would have stayed there, but he couldn't survive closing at 1 o'clock, especially when you got New Year's parties, birthday parties, and weddings. When
Well,
people-
I think this board has different information, which I don't want to go there at this time,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But they were doing very well,
Yeah.
okay? Those are the only points I wanted to bring out, that
And
these
by
are
the
still
way,
owned.
and by the way,
by-
at the time, at the rollback where they were having most of the incident calls and most of the problem calls was at Reardon's. So,
Well, I don't know that. We had several places that were on the same level. None of them are still licensed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I got one quick question. Vincent, what's the name of your establishment again?
Four-Act Smokehouse, 297 Lee Burbank Highway, Revere.
Is that a restaurant, lounge, bar?
Yes,
Okay,
combination.
combination.
Yes,
Do
I
you
have-
You live in Revere?
I used to live in
you
Revere
used to live in
40 years. I don't live there. I don't live here right at this moment.
Oh, you do? Okay.
But I grew up here for 40 years.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you were talking about the letters that I
I'm
have.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. You're talking about the letters that we have. Do you want me to hand them to you and you can review them, or each one addresses the issue? I believe one of the commissioners was concerned about how much money that each individual is losing.
Yeah, I would just hope that whoever comes up and speaks before the board will
Okay.
give us a little detail on what
Okay.
are
Well, I have a
in those
letter from
letters.
Mr. Giacchetti for you, and you've heard Mr. Giacchetti. Let's see if I can, how about Mr.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that the board has those figures and knows what the issues are. But where it is a public hearing, I'd also like the audience to hear that testimony.
Well, I also have a letter from Peter DePisa. So I know Mr. DePisa is here. If you could just get up. Maybe what I'll do is, as these people talk to you, I'll hand you the letters.
Perfect. That'd be great.
How you doing? My name is Peter DePisa. I represent the Squire Lounge in Revere. I don't want to just talk about the owners. I like to talk about our employees. 80% of my employees are from the city of Revere. And in today's economy, as everybody knows, everybody's bills are going up and their pays are going down. My question here is, how many people can survive off a 35% loss on their pays? They're working more now than making less. It's very hard to sit there and watch a waitress working 4 nights a week just to pay her bills, and then when she comes up to you and says, I don't have the money to send my daughter to cheerleading or keep up with school in today's economy. These people are looking to get jobs elsewhere, but they don't want to travel 30 miles from their house. They want to stay local. By taking that hour back, you're taking 40% pay away from an employee. I think that's very unfair. It's also very hard to sit there, and I know your understanding is the drinking and driving laws. Everyone's concerned. I ran an establishment for 20 years. 0 violation. with the ABCC. I shouldn't be penalized for a mistake that somebody else is making. People are going to drink and drive. They're coming home from the Red Sox game, the Patriots game, Boston. They're still driving through the city of Revere. The problems that we have are not the owners. It's the whole state of Massachusetts. But we don't have the time to have the discussion here. I'm pleading on the behalf of our employees to give their money back so they can pay their bills. They can send their kids to camp. They can send their kids to cheerleading. They can play football. They can play baseball. They can work less hours, spend time with their families. That's what I have to say.
Do you have any idea in terms of the impact that it has in terms of hiring new employees? Would you say that as time goes along, you'd be hiring more employees, or you'd be giving them more hours? Because I've thought a lot about that myself.
The impact is they're definitely going to get more hours. As far as getting employees to come through the door, they're not making the money, so employees aren't walking through the door, so we're holding on to what we have now because they know there's no money in the city of Revere.
Understood, but I guess what do you see as the impact by increasing the closing time to 2 a.m.?
The impact is getting their 40% payback, is getting them to work their less hours, is be able to send their kids to cheerleading, to camp, buy their sneakers, send them to football. That's the impact. That's the real world. I mean, we can all sit here and say numbers. We lost millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and combine it. But the real world is when you sit there and Mary can't send her daughter to cheerleading because she's 40% loss in pay, but her bills went up 30%. That's a 60, 70% turnaround. That's the real world. Thank you.
Peter,
Yes.
from a quantitative perspective, I'm an analytical type of person, so that 1 to 2, 1 to 2 time frame, you're saying that's 40% of the business for that day?
Absolutely.
Based on...
Because what you heard...
Yeah, let me teach me. I don't understand.
Okay, what Vinny just said,
Okay.
the airport people get out at 12 o'clock. They're not driving to Revere because they know that loss of hour is there. So our time is getting affected from 11 o'clock at night until 2 in the morning. That's the real world. In our point of view, it's 1 hour. But in the real world, it's 3 to 4 hour difference. When people plan to go out for the night, after work, they're not going to go somewhere they're getting kicked out in 10 minutes. They want to go to Vinny's place, have a burger, have a beer, relax, unwind, sit down, socialize with their friends. But their decision is don't go to the Vinny's place, go to Givelli's in East Boston, where they can spend 2 hours and wind down. So that's the analytical point. The real world is 3 hour loss, not just a 1 hour loss.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure Mr. DePisa would, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure Mr. DePisa would tell you that loss is 7 days a week. This was the information you were going to provide the commission.
Good afternoon, Wes Clemens from the Revere Moose Lodge. I was governor back in 2006 or 2008 when the rollback was in effect. We noticed an immediate loss of business. A lot of our members work at the airport. Well, they stopped coming into our lodge and headed directly over to East Boston when they got out of work. That revenue, we've never really made it back. We've been chasing it ever since. It's been a struggle to keep our heads above water. We're a community-based organization. We do a lot for the city, and it's been very hard for us to just try to keep doing what we've been doing right along. We've also noticed, in retrospect, I mean, you're talking about people, I know the past administration had a false speculation that people were going to be driving through our cities from other cities. chasing the alcohol or whatever. But now you have people leaving Revere, heading to East Boston, to Malden, to Saugus, but yet they're all driving back after 2 a.m. to get back home. So I don't know where you find that keeping them right here in the city might be the best bet than having them drive all around and then heading back home here. It would make sense just to keep them right here in our own city. This is where our business is. It's where our livelihood is. I have a hard time getting bartenders down there. They rather work in East Boston, Saugus, Malden, stay at 2 a.m., make that extra money. It's hard for them to come down. They say, Wes, we can't make any money here. You got a short closing hour. Your business is hurting us. And I mean, this is where it's all it is. This is, like gentleman just said, the real world. This is what's happening to us. So I'd like you to reconsider the closing hours. I think that would help us. Do you have any questions? Okay, well, thank you.
This was the information provided by
Hi, please state your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Sims. I'm from BK's Lounge, 264 Ocean Avenue in Revere. I've been there since 1996, and I've noticed it's a family business. My family's been in the liquor establishment since 1930s here in Revere, and I've noticed a significant impact. First, when we had the no smoking, we weathered through that, which is fine. I think we're all happier for that. But this rollback, you figure that's 21 hours a week of business that we're losing. And I've seen it with people coming from the airport. Customers get out of work. We no longer see that clientele anymore. It's made it very difficult, a struggle to keep the doors open. You have to work much harder, which is not a problem, but we have, I feel like I run a very nice establishment. We have people from all over the world come and visit us in the summertime. They come back, repeat business. They look forward to coming back. They love Revere Beach. And the other thing, too, is like the 12:30 lockdown. I can't see how that could possibly work. The establishment across the street from us, Bill Ashes, we have people that'll come over, sing karaoke, go back, visit back and forth. If someone leaves to go to their car, you'd like to have, especially if it's a woman, somebody walk them to their car. If somebody goes out for a cigarette, I think that would be very tough, and I wouldn't want to be right on the corner. And in all actuality, the state police are there 24 hours a day anyway, as it is, but I wouldn't, which is fine, but I wouldn't want them to, the Revere Police, I think, would be disrespectful, seeing somebody coming and going. I'm hoping that the board can work it on merit, and if somebody is disrespectful, then they should be penalized. But when you think back of since 2008, the liquor cost has gone up, the insurances that we pay. It's really been a struggle in the business, and it's our livelihood, my family's livelihood. And so I hope the board can really work with us on this.
Do you find that the revenue, that's the lost revenue, is
Positively.
attributed to just alcohol, or would you say it would be, is it alcohol and food as well as?
We don't serve, we serve hot dogs, which we serve all day and all night. People in chips, and no meals or anything like that, but, to have food in the establishment. So, no, it's not like a dining establishment.
So you work there as a bartender?
I'm the manager.
The manager.
Yes.
And no food, just basically alcohol.
No, we serve hot dogs.
Hot dogs, I mean,
all day, all
and
night.
chips.
And chips, popcorn. We're constantly making popcorn. Constantly feeding the customers to make sure they have substance in them.
Okay, absolutely. So you've been there almost 20 years, so you've seen the progression of people, or the patrons come in, a drop in the number of people over the years.
Positively.
You
no.
have?
And when we did the rollback, I would sit and I'd watch the customers at 11:30, watch the bar empty out, and they'd all go to East Boston. and you'd just sit there and you'd watch them go, and it makes it a struggle to really keep the doors open.
So if we moved it to 2 o'clock, would there be any concern from your end about, people at the bar, they're sitting there, they're drinking more, concern about safety and them leaving your establishment? Does that cross your mind as well? Or?
I think if you look back at our record, we have our bartenders are all tip certified.
Mm-hmm.
They're very aware. We have our doormen.
Mm-hmm.
And we know to just pay. We don't want that to fall back on us.
Correct.
So we're not going to overserve somebody. And yes, there are times we take, keys away from people and don't let them drive. We don't want our doors closed, so of course we are going to pay attention to that. I have a fabulous crew that work down there, and they're very good, they're very attentive. And it would be nice, too, if the board sometime just came down and checked out our different establishments and see what type of a business that we do run.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
No, I have no question.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor, just to follow up to my question earlier, and maybe you can answer that, how much of the lost revenue is attributable to alcohol versus food?
I would say that you'd have to ask the individuals themselves. I don't know enough about each one of their businesses to represent that I could give you a credible answer, sir.
Great, thank you. You can't see that. Hi, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Charles Del Pidio, I'm the owner of record at the Wonderland Ballroom. First of all, I'd like to say to have a liquor license in the town of Revere is a privilege. And I'm sure I share the same sentiments with all these gentlemen and ladies that are here today. And there's nothing worse than watching a business go down and down and down. And that's what's happening to us over at the Wonderland Ballroom. I'm trying to fix things as far as air conditioners, everything else, and there's no money. Now, what happens to us is that we've lost 30 to 40 concerts. And what's basically what we do over there is more than anything is concerts. And they don't want to book in a 1 o'clock establishment. It's the 2 o'clock establishment that they want to be at. And, as far as employees, we used to have over 100 employees. Now I'm down to about 45. And these employees only work when we have work. And I can't make people book their concerts because of the 2 o'clock. But it's really, when I mean a privilege to have a license, it's a privilege. And there's nothing better than going to work, having a great night, making sure all your customers are safe, and everybody goes home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually glad you make that point because I think you'll hear from the other side that a lot of this will be safety issues associated with 2 o'clock. Making sure that people leave the establishment sober, making sure that there isn't any type of trouble that takes place at 2 a.m., the noise issues, all of those things. Those are things that I'd like to hear how you're going to address, not specifically you, but all of the owners in terms of what are your controls that you're going to put in place so that, because some of these establishments are in residential neighborhoods. And having been in that situation myself, I know that could be very frustrating at times. Now, I think that there's ways of handling that, and I'd like to hear a little bit about that from the restaurant
personally,
owners.
I've been in this business for 30 years. And we have other establishments in downtown Boston. And just to talk about that for a second, then I'll answer your question, is that our businesses in Boston have gotten better since we've had a 1 o'clock license out here. We have function halls in downtown Boston that are a lot busier. But as far as getting back to the issue of the safety of customers, it's all in training and how you prepare your staff and having managers that know what to do in situations. But you know what? Again, I'll say we always have 2 police details. We always have a fire department there. And we just put in a big system for the fire department so that if there was ever a problem, the lights go on, the sound goes off. You know, we're trying to do everything we can, but we're losing to the 2 o'clock establishments. And there's not even a question about that.
So in terms of, you know, if you went to a 2 a.m. closing, I mean, what do you anticipate, how long would you anticipate the, you know, the police details to remain after the establishment's closed? Any thought to that?
Well, usually probably 2:30, 2:15, somewhere in that range. 2:30, I would say. Yeah.
Is it once you feel that the establishment's been cleared out and the parking lot has been cleared out? Is that?
Yes. I mean, the parking lot is very, very valuable thing to do. You need to have your staff trained properly for everything, especially the parking lot. You know, with people, if they have radios loud, you know, sending people to their cars, because the last thing you want to do is to have people standing around outside. You have to disperse them. You have to have them go to their cars, and then they drive out. I mean, a beautiful parking facility that they put in down there. I can't believe how beautiful a job they really did down there. And, you know, in downtown Boston, you have to pay $30 to park your car. Over here in Revere, we pay $5. We have a beautiful facility, but you know what? It's going down fast. We just cannot make the money we need to make because the concerts are leaving and going elsewhere.
If it was extended to 2, do you think you'd have more opportunity for events
Oh,
that
absolutely.
would be interested in coming?
Absolutely, because I know, because when they call in and they want to book it for 2 o'clock, I tell them we cannot do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and anybody else that wants to book an event, everybody wants 2 o'clock. You know, I'm not up here saying that 2 o'clock is going to make the world change, but you know what? It's going to make these bars change. And with some help from the board and the help from my staff, I promise you this, that we will do everything in our power to make sure that the city of Revere is in good standings with everything.
Great. Thank you very much. Council. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kerry Tunstall. I'm co-owner of Bill Ash's Lounge down Revere Beach. I'll just state some quick facts. Through May of this year, compared to the same period of time to the year of the rollback, our revenue has dropped 42%. For the year of 2012, it had dropped 38% from the year of the rollback. Our lottery sales have dropped more than 40%. That's forced us to eliminate 10 part-time lottery shifts. We always had 2 shifts a day, 7 days a week. Now we just have them on the weekend. And we also trimmed 8 shifts between bartender, doorman, and waitress position. And this has resulted in 5 people losing their jobs, much needed jobs by them and some indispensable people for us. And talking about security, we were able to keep a couple of key people that have been around a long time, which is good if we ever get these hours back to train some new people coming in. But I mean, we're cut right to the bone staff-wise right now. How would that 1 hour affect us? Well, hopefully we'll be able to restaff and get, you know, because I don't want to be understaffed, but right now I'm certainly not overstaffed. You know, we're right to the bone. And, you know, I know there's a misconception. I had the opportunity the year of the rollback to run into one of the city councilors here at an event, and he was saying, is it really that big a thing? It's 1 hour. I said, first of all, it's a misconception. When people were first finding out about this, and 12:30, we were giving them last call, people that were unaware, and they said, so instead of getting into their car, driving to our place, and then getting in their car and driving to another place, and then getting in their car and driving home, they skipped us. It's not 1 hour. We lost customers, not for an hour, not for 2 or 3 hours. We just lost them. I've run into them at the supermarket, at the theater, you know, and they says, you know, I mean, I only have so many hours out or whatever, you know what I mean? I got to get here, I got to drive there, I got to drive there, you know, and I mean, you know, it makes sense to me. We might be unique in the fact that being down the beach, you know, we only have from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It rained the whole month of June this year. You know, so the little time we have is important. That's when we have our bands. I've been down there 35 years, and until the last 5 years, we've always had at least 2 days a week had a band. Not now. Now, we don't have a band in November, December, January, February, March, April, May. I think we had a band one weekend. We had it twice, and in other words, we've cut the bands back. The bands, their crowd, they come out to see the bands, they mostly don't even start coming out until like 11 o'clock. So because our revenue has dropped, we've been unable to pay some of the better bands, which have forced us to pay some of the lower bands and bring, you know, smaller crowds. You know, and it's a catch-22. You know, so we're at the point now where you know, we have 2 bands this weekend, and next weekend we have it one time. You know, it's not even all the time anymore. People walk in and say, "You've always had bands." And I know, I understand that. That's a big hour, especially on the weekends and especially in the summertime. It's a very big hour for us. And as far as I heard you talking about safety and what will we do if we got this hour back or whatever, I've reached out and tried to, you know, recruit some of our old employees because, you know, down around the neighborhood when you get this, you know, you can have last call at 10 o'clock. I mean, you have to do your job. Someone's still going to be having too much to drink. I don't care if it's 9:30 at night or you know, 1:30 in the morning. And we had a staff that knew the people. You know what I mean? They knew the ones. You know, and then we got the ones that were unknown to us. We got to know them very quickly. You know what I mean? And we discouraged them from, you know, coming anymore. Now I have a couple of key people left, but now if we bring people back, it's going to be a matter of training them all because a lot of them are brand new. Thank you.
I just had a couple of questions.
Sure.
In terms of the bands, so do you anticipate those bands playing till 2 a.m. or?
No, the bands don't play past 1:30. When we give last call, that's it for the bands.
Okay. And
right now it's 12:30, but it's always been that way.
and my main concern is, and not just with this establishment, any establishment, is if you're going to have any types of bands and entertainment, I want to make sure that you know, that necessary steps are taken so that it doesn't affect the neighborhood. And that's where I'm coming from. I get the part about the hardship. My main concern is making sure that the proper steps are in place that takes care of the neighbors and addresses any issues.
Absolutely. Well, fortunately for us, the beach is right across the street, and behind us we have a big parking lot, and then the train tracks behind us there. So, you know, we're in a good situation.
It's not so much aimed at you.
No, but
just
actually,
in general.
we've taken steps in the past. We've had some rock and roll bands. We told them your last set is going to be an acoustic set. We don't need to get these people pumped up or whatever. Let's calm them down. Let's, you know. And I mean, through the years, we've realized different things like this. Let's make that last set the quiet set. You know what I mean? And everyone just can wind down and relax, and then it's time to finish up and go home. So, believe me, we take into consideration everything going on around us because I'm surrounded by several businesses, and you know, we all got to get along. We all got to do the right thing for each other.
Great. Any questions?
I got a quick question, just real quick. So you said in 2012 you saw a significant drop in business?
38% for the year.
The
rollback.
The rollback
and
was...
some of that I'm sure is attributed to the economy, too. It's not
correct.
all the 1 o'clock. But like I say, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, that's a big time of year for us, and a lot of that is due to the bands. And that last hour is very, very big with the, you know, when it comes to those band nights.
But what about, now the rollback was done in 2008. How was the business from that till 2012?
That's what I'm saying, from 2008 to I'm sorry if it wasn't clear.
Okay.
From that figure was 38% in 2012 to compare to 2008.
Great.
And so far through May of this year, it's 42% from that same year, the same period of time of 2008.
And would you say prior to the rollback, prior to 2008, the number of incidences were any different from they were after the rollback? You know, the number of issues, number of complaints, you know, prior and post.
No, I really don't see that.
Pretty much.
Not personally, you know.
Yeah, because you've been there 35 years, right?
35 years.
So you've seen everything.
Everything. And we've done everything to try to stem the tide of this, you know, falling down. We've barbecued on the weekends. We've had the beer companies give us T-shirts. We've tried to give out to customers, and nothing's working now. You know, it came to the point where we just had to start cutting employees or employees leaving, and I don't know where else to go from here because there's nothing else I can do that I can see that can raise revenue in any other way. I mean, we're giving stuff away. Our prices have barely changed in 5 years because we know the economic climate around us, and in the wintertime especially, we depend on the working man, you know, plumbers, carpenters, roofers, whatever. And we know those guys don't have the money. They're not working like they used to. But we just can't.
Yeah, I was just getting at, you know, it's again what Joe had said, that whole safety factor between 1 and 2. You know, if we were to, you know, increase the 2 a.m., that's the big concern here. So I think you've experienced it prior to that, being open till 2, and you didn't see a drop-off of issues after it dropped to 1. It's been pretty much...
I haven't seen anything change at all. I mean, years ago, it used to be a little tougher, like 25, 30 years ago, it would be a little tougher
Yeah,
down there.
yeah.
But no, I haven't seen anything since these rollbacks. I haven't noticed any difference whatsoever.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
It's fine. Thank you, Counsel. Please state your name for the record,
Hi,
please, and
my
address.
name is William Dolan. I'm the owner of the Cove Lounge in Revere. They pretty well said everything they had to say, and they are right. We are starving to death. We are starving to death. At 11 o'clock at night, everybody leaves our places to go to East Boston, Lynn, wherever you want to say, they leave. I've been in Revere for 79 years, and I've been in business in Revere 59 years. So I'm pretty much awake of what's going on in this city. I bring up children with autism. I take care of my family. I take care of other people. I do a lot. And I completely running out of money because the place is killing us. Because at 11 o'clock on a Sunday, you look in the place, there's 6 people in there. If you don't believe me, you ever write it in. How good is that? Come down tonight, you count 20 people. We have bands every Saturday night, and I automatically shut the back door and the front door and watch my music because I don't want my neighbors to be unhappy. Because if they're unhappy, I'm unhappy. Right? That's right. And as far as they're saying, well, give it to certain people. I had a guy last week that came up from the beach, guy probably about 50 years old, fallen down. I don't know what he was on, and I had to call the police. The police came. I said to the officer, I said, sir, where did this happen? He says, well, my pinpoint is the Cove because the building's right there. Never in the place. I swear my children he was never in the joint. I said, well, why do you pick the Cove? Well, that's the nearest place to pick. Meantime, who gets in trouble? Us. That's the only thing I say. If you want to stop make my children starve to death, let it stay that way. If you want to do the right thing, give them the tool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Counsel?
Joe Coco, 36 Sears Street. I'm not up here represent with anybody. I'm up here as a Revere resident and taxpayer. Now, most of the council...
Are you in opposition, or are you in...
I'm in favor.
In favor, okay.
And I want to explain why.
Okay, great.
First of all, I've been on the beach for the last 40 years. And I'm very well known to the city council as of a couple of years ago, because you mentioned 5 years ago, 3 years ago, when they were having trouble on the beach. I was one of them that witnessed a lot of it. I was one of them that watched what people were leaving on the beach. And as a matter of fact, I was invited to a couple of private meetings that they had because they wanted to hear what I had to say. Now, I just want to give, I'm not going to mention every bar in the city. I just want to mention one, and I hope he doesn't get mad. I want to mention Renzo's. Now, Renzo's, I don't know if anybody's, I've been in this city. I used to go into the Eptide when I was younger. I know I don't look that old, but I used to go into the Eptide when I was younger. And I don't know if anybody remembers when Roses used to be there. The cops were there every night. There were stabbings there. There were everything. This guy comes in, and he changes it over, and Renzo's is nothing for a place like people like us. No kids, no rowdy, people like us. He changed that place over 100%. And about a year ago, I think it was, I was at a meeting where some elderly lady in the back was saying they were making too much noise there. This woman, if you look back in the meetings, she's been there for everything. She complained about the boulevard, and she's not even near there. So, I mean, people have to understand, just like every beach in the city or the country, if you live near the beach, you have to put up with what the beach has to offer, meaning music, maybe some loud music. If you can't take the loud music, you have to move. I mean, if you want a retirement home where you're not going to hear anything, you don't move to the beach. I live just about on the beach. I hear it, doesn't bother me. I see the people that come by it. There's a lot more important things that we can do in this city than take a livelihood away from people for a lousy hour. There's nothing wrong with that hour. And believe me, I know the members of the City Council will tell you that if I thought it was, I would be up here objecting to it. But I know these guys, there's no trouble in the city like there used to be. God, we had one bar a few years ago have an incident happen, and they all paid for it. I mean, it's not fair. Guys like the guy that's running Renzo's, he's running a nice establishment for older people. That's what we want. People like ourselves, and maybe not, real, but people, not teenagers that are going to go in there high, get drunk, and start trouble afterwards. This hour, I think the city needs it for the revenue. And no, I mean, come on, we need it for the revenue, and they need it for the people that are working for them and themselves. And there's no reason why people shouldn't do this. And like I said, you ask people on the city council, because I was well known up there, coming up and complaining about the beach. And I hope that I was one of the people that are responsible for the beach being the way it is now. The beach is nice now, and it's going to continue that way. And we need business in this city, and the casino's going to come in here. I really feel it is, and it's going to go to 2 anyway. We all know that. So let's, give these guys a break and let them do it.
Right.
I just have a comment. As far as Renzo's, yes, it's a wonderful establishment. It is more middle-aged. But I can tell you, we have a lot of great businesses coming into our city. We have some great businesses in the city that are coming in, and I'd like to attribute it to the work that this board has been doing over the last several years.
No, I understand that, but if you go back 5 years ago, there's been trouble in the city. There hasn't been that trouble now.
No, there hasn't. I'm saying,
I mean, not with the establishments, but other things.
I think Revere Beach is second to none.
No, I mean, listen, I'm up here to protect the city. I love the city, and I love the beach. And if there was a problem with it, I would be the first one up here to complain. Believe me, and I think members of the city council that go way back will tell you that. So just give the guys a break and try it. If something happens, then deal with it, and address it and take them up here. At least give it a shot. I mean, it's not fair that everybody around us is at 2 and we're at 1. It's not fair to these people.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Armen Tukmanian, formerly Lobster Cabin. Now it's a Mirage Restaurant. It's a 220 Linway. It's right beside the bridge over there. So we're in a business for 23 years. We always like to do nice business for people like us. We like to do function parties and birthday parties, weddings, Our business is based on the big parties, which is good, and people like it. So the 1 hour cutback is hurting us. So people, they stop making reservations anymore, like they used to. So kind of we appreciate if you help us on that.
Do you see yourself serving food, late into the evening to accommodate your patrons?
So, like used to, we serve the food, and people usually enjoy. They stay in late because of the entertainment, Like, yeah.
Let me rephrase the question a little bit. Okay. Do you see your kitchen staying open longer because you'd be open an extra hour?
Usually, yes. People like to eat, Yeah. Thank you.
I have
Thank
one-
you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one bar that wrote a letter to the commission. I'll read it into the record if that's what you'd like.
That'd be great.
It's Ravenese Fine Italian Cuisine. They're at looks like 306 Revere Street. It says, "To who it may concern, I'm writing this letter on the matter of extending the 1 a.m. liquor license to 2 a.m. Reason being is that we in Revere cannot compete with East Boston and Boston. Boston in general has a 2 a.m. closing time, which affects us tremendously. Our patrons, knowing that the Revere establishments can only stay open till 1 a.m., leave our establishments and patronize the establishments that close at 2 a.m. On average, our patrons leave at 12 a.m. at the latest, which affects us with revenue loss. On average, our weekly food and beverage sales between the hours of 11:30 and 1 a.m. are $7,150. By extending our hours of operation to 2 a.m., we will benefit a 25% increase of business, which in dollar amount is $1,787.50 a week, or approximately $92,950 a year. How did I come up with the 25%, you ask? Patrons come out between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., which gives us 4 to 5 hours of business, but when the patrons leave our establishment between 11:30 and midnight to go to a city to spend their money, we lose the hour to hour and a half of business, which totals approximately 25% in revenue loss. Now, that 25% revenue loss is just numbers for my establishment, not counting all other Revere establishments that is losing money to another town. Also, not to mention the revenue loss for New Year's Eve, weddings, and birthday functions. I kindly ask for the commission to extend our hours of operation to 2 a.m. so we can keep all the potential revenue in our city of Revere. Sincerely, Angela Ravenese, owner-manager, Ristorante Ravenese.
Thank you. Council, do you have any other that want to speak? Is there anyone else here that would want to speak in favor of 2 a.m.? Please come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Lou Del Pidio. I'm the owner at Wonderland Ballroom. We have the same facility, but much larger in Providence, Rhode Island. It's called the Roxy. It's on Washington Street. And of course, the problem is closing when you have a large. So we came up with an idea in Providence, and we went into effect a year and a half ago, that any establishments that had more than 200 people in it had to have a police detail, or as many as the police department was necessary. And we were able to shut the liquor off at 2 a.m., but continue light entertainment until 3 a.m. It did away with 99% of the problems, because people come, when people are coming into your establishment, they come 5, 10 at a time. When you have to put all the people out in the street at one time is when the problem starts. So this eliminated that, and the people started to leave 50 at a time, 60 at a time. Before you knew it, the place was empty. It really never goes to 3. But as soon as you shut off the liquor, they start leaving slowly. But the entertainment gets slowed down, and the problems went completely away. You can check with the city of Providence, and they put it in a temporary. Now it's a permanent situation. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Alex Herrera, 492 Riviera Beach Boulevard,
I'm
Antonia
sorry,
Restaurant.
I didn't catch your first name.
492 Riviera Beach Boulevard.
No, I'm sorry, your
Alex
name.
Herrera. I'm the owner of Antonia Restaurant. I've been there for over 8 years. And since we lose the hour from 1 to 2, I've seen the losses in revenue. I can see my other partners do the same thing over here. We lose the revenue from 11:30 to 12, people start leaving the place. So basically at 12 o'clock, we don't have anybody at the restaurant. I used to close the restaurant at 2 in the morning, stay there until like 2, ask everybody to leave, and by the time we clean and have the restaurant ready to go, it's 3 in the morning. So it's basically we're losing like 4 hours of that we can produce for our employees. So I would love if you can take a look and consider and get the hour back to 2 in the morning and get the places back to the way they used to be before. It's really sad to see the beach, which is one of the first public beach open in the United States, see an empty beach in the summer. You know, it's not really a lot of restaurants around, and when people find out that we have to close at 1, they don't really want to go to the beach. You know, they go somewhere else, stay in Boston or East Boston, or they go to a different beach. So, I'm just here to support everybody else, and you can consider that. Thank you.
Any questions? Anyone else want to speak in favor of? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close this side of the argument. We'll now hear anyone who wants to speak in opposition. Please step up. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kitty Bowman. I'm Director of Revere Cares, located at 300 Ocean Avenue. And I'm here not to speak actually on behalf of Revere Cares, but to read a letter written by Dr. Roger Pazinski, Director of the MGH Revere Healthcare Center. He's unable to be with us at this time because he's seeing patients. I am writing to notify you of my concern regarding the proposed change in bar closing times in Revere. As director of the MGH Revere Healthcare Center on the beach, my commitment to the patients that MGH serves in Revere is of the utmost importance. In fact, it is because I am seeing patients that I am not delivering these words in person at today's hearing. But please rest assured that I am paying close attention to the matter and its potential implications on community health. I feel that I have an obligation to Revere's residents to voice my opinion that maintaining the 1 a.m. closing time is the healthiest option for Revere at this time. I have a primary care internist and I am a primary care internist and pediatrician serving Revere for 29 years, caring for patients and families from birth to 90s and occasionally hundreds. Over the years, I have seen too many tragedies related to the abuse of alcohol, including death from liver failure, deaths and disability from MVAs related to drinking under the influence, domestic violence and its severe effects on children and women and babies born with fetal alcohol syndrome. Many innocent family members and community residents are often severely affected by the one person with alcoholism. All of these impacts are preventable at the individual and community level, but prevention is very difficult and takes a large, cohesive community effort. As an active member of the steering committee of Revere Cares, we conducted a community-wide health assessment in 2012 in conjunction with the MGH Center for Community Health Improvement and Revere Cares. I have also seen the data that indicates how problematic alcohol continues to be in Revere. For instance, on the Quality of Life survey that over 800 community residents completed, substance abuse was identified as the #1 issue in Revere, with alcohol being identified as the top substance of concern. A review of 4.5 years between 2007 and 2011 of Revere Fire Department data shows that there were 1,562 calls for service that involved substances, and alcohol was by far the most common substance involved in these calls. And according to data from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, Revere's substance abuse rate is significantly higher than the state's average. 2,890 admissions per 100,000 in Revere compared to 1,590 admissions per 100,000 residents is the average in Massachusetts. The two top substances involved in treatment admissions for Revere residents was heroin and alcohol. I am worried that access to alcohol by extending bar closing hours is dangerous for a community that already has such high rates of problematic alcohol use. And while I certainly empathize with the economic needs of local business owners, the economic concerns of the city must also be weighed in this discussion. The medical community now recognizes substance use disorders as chronic disease, one that impacts the community's bottom line in numerous ways, including public safety, health care, insurance, and property damage costs. I point to these impacts not to villainize community members who are struggling with addiction or to excuse them from personal responsibility. With proper treatment and support, substance use disorders can be managed and quality of life be restored. I merely want to acknowledge that higher rates of problematic substance use in a community ultimately affects everybody. It is therefore critical that the citywide policies encourage healthy behaviors and norms around substance use. I believe that a 1 a.m. closing allows individuals who are 21 and older their freedom of personal choice to responsibly enjoy alcohol and do so in moderation. Thank you for your time in this manner and for the attention to the health and safety needs of Revere. Sincerely, Dr. Roger Kaczynski. I've got copies for each of you.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition? State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Katie Sugarman. I'm the Assistant Director of the Revere Cares Coalition at 300 Ocean Avenue. In my role as the Assistant Director of the Coalition, I'm here to represent the Revere Cares Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drug Task Force, also known as the ATOD Task Force. This is a group comprised of a wide array of individuals who live and or work here in Revere. That includes parents, youth, educators, first responders, health professionals, probation officers, and treatment providers. These are folks who are very knowledgeable about local conditions concerning health and safety. And while it may be hard for some to believe, we are not prohibitionists. We have no problem with responsible consumption of alcohol by individuals 21 and up. The ATOD task force has historically supported the 1 a.m. closing time that is currently in effect, and the task force is concerned about the possible impact on the community should closing times return to 2 a.m. At the same time, however, we are reasonable, and we also are concerned about the economic issues that have been outlined so far in this discussion today. When the police department first advocated for the rollback of bar closing hours in 2008 from 2 a.m. to 1 a.m., Revere Cares supported the move for a few reasons. Often the drinking that happened in those late night hours were excessive. We're certainly not making a blanket statement about everyone that's drinking at that time, but often it was excessive. The city had limited resources to deal with the associated impact of this drinking on public safety, such as drunk driving, assaults, and other forms of violence. And there were police officers at the time who were on medical leave because of injuries sustained while responding to late night incidents at local bars. In subsequent years, the task force maintained its support for 1 a.m. In light of feedback we also received from youth at the high school. Kids from the Power of No and RHS Connect clubs advocated for maintaining the 1 a.m. closing time to support a healthier image for Revere. These are kids who are peer leaders advocating to try to change the image that Revere has, especially outside of the community, because they know firsthand how wonderful the city is, and they want that to be known outside of this community. And I think all of us in this room know how wonderful Revere is. According to student input, they felt that they frequently faced negative opinions of Revere when they went to statewide student activities and events. They talked about frequently facing this stereotype that Revere's a city that you go to quote unquote have a good time, but nobody would want to actually live there. They talked about going to debate competitions where kids from other communities would be shocked that the Revere kids were placing high in these competitions, and that's a stereotype that they've been really working hard to combat. We also got student feedback that they were concerned about how college admissions offices perceived the city and wondered if that impacted their applications when they were applying for colleges. This youth feedback, combined with the police department's reported double-digit declines in calls during the overnight hours in the first year of the rollback, and the fact that actually most of our surrounding communities do have 1 a.m. closings, albeit the biggest community we have next to us, East Boston, we recognize does have a 2 a.m. closing time. All of these factors prompted Revere Cares to maintain its position for the 1 a.m. closing, and we still suspect that this is the healthiest option for the community at this time. But community conditions have prompted us to look at this issue again, and the economic concerns outlined by local business owners are necessary for us to consider. We recognize that most establishments are owned and managed responsibly. We recognize that there has certainly been a decline in the past 5 years in terms of late night incidents at local bars and restaurants. And we also recognize the potential impacts of a casino should one come to the East Boston Revere line. We at the Coalition feel that it's necessary to make sure that we're always balancing best practices in addiction prevention with best practices in community engagement and collaboration. Finding this balance requires that we do consider the input of everyone in the community, and that does include our local bar and restaurant owners. So in researching the debate before us, I chatted with a number of folks in the community, folks who live locally and are also police officers, folks who work in treatment provider settings, and first responders. And I also spoke with a Revere resident who for years has worked in local bars as a security staff member. And he was very clear to me that he supported the 2 a.m. closing. But he also said that he was adamant, and he emphasized this to me, that a 2 a.m. closing could only be safely implemented if alcohol service ended at 1 a.m. He shared stories with me of bar patrons ordering drinks with this current 1 a.m. closing, ordering drinks during last call at 12:45 in the morning, giving them 15 minutes to either pound those drinks down or not finish them. And those who didn't get to finish them and who had to leave the establishment left angry, and it created a volatile situation at times when you had crowds all dispersing at the same time, and some had already had some alcohol, and some were angry about not getting to finish their $5 or $8 or $10 drink. So those are obviously examples of how 1 a.m. should not be implemented. That is not how a safe closing happens. Our worry, though, is that that same scenario could play out again at 2 a.m., but that means that people have had an extra hour to drink if last call is happening at like 1:30 or 1:45. So consequently, Revere Cares proposes that the honorable members of this commission convene a committee to thoroughly research all sides of this issue and make recommendations for the commission's consideration. This committee should include local bar and restaurant owners, law enforcement, and I would love to get some perspective from the police department on this issue, absolutely. Public health professionals, and that could include members from our coalition if this commission thought it was appropriate to have us on the group, and other parties that the commission would deem appropriate to conduct an in-depth cost-benefit analysis of the bar closing hours at 1 a.m. versus 2 a.m. We've heard different dollar amounts mentioned today about the hardship that different establishments have experienced. I couldn't tell you what the dollar amount is in terms of the impact to cost to the police department, cost to the city, insurance rates. I don't know those numbers, and I wouldn't even venture to guess without sitting down and really looking at it in an informed way with a number of people who are more in the know on some of those things than I am. This committee should also have access to police and fire department data in order to really analyze what changes have occurred in calls overnight. Has there been a change in frequency? Has there been a change in the nature of the calls? Additionally, this committee should review best practices from other communities. And the final decision obviously still lies with you, the commission, but we would recommend that you convene this committee so that we really have a real true cost-benefit analysis of this full picture. And I also want to note that our suggestion to create this special committee is not intended to be a stall tactic or a sleight of hand. I mean, this issue has been fraught with contention over the years, and we are suggesting this as kind of a quote-unquote bipartisan way to really try to resolve an issue in a way that responds to the needs of as many people in the community as possible. So responds to the economic hardships that have been raised by our business community, but also responds to the real health and safety concerns that are out there. We already heard a number of them outlined by Dr. Paszynski, somebody who I consider to be a leading medical authority in this community and who's been here for decades and knows what happens. He has a good sense of the pulse of this community. So a committee like this would really provide you as a commission the hard evidence and data to make a truly well-informed decision. Now, if a 2 a.m. closing is recommended by this special committee, or if today you decide to render a decision and you deem it appropriate to vote for a 2 a.m. closing, we would suggest that there need to be as many safeguards as possible, and we cannot support a 2 a.m. closing without safeguards in place. As I did refer to in my comments about my conversation with a local security person, staggering closing time in order to discourage binge drinking and preventing patrons from bar hopping may be able to prevent the unfortunate scenarios that that gentleman shared with me that occurred at 1 a.m. So for an example, perhaps that would be that doors close and no new businesses allowed in after 12 a.m. Last call occurs around 12:30, 12:45, so that alcohol service ends at 1. Now the establishment may still be open till 2 a.m., but that allows people time to leisurely sip their drinks, enjoy their social companionship with friends and whomever they're out with, and also allows them to leave in a slower, more methodical way. They may finish their drink at 1:20 and decide to leave at that point, and then there may still be folks that linger till 2. But it doesn't create this mass exodus at 1 a.m. with everyone having just either slammed down a drink or being angry that they didn't get to finish their drink. We would also recommend a close look at the number of security personnel required at each establishment, as well as training requirements for security personnel. In our brief research on the topic, we found that the New York Police Department has a 30-page document that outlines over 60 best practices for nightlife establishments. One of its recommendations is that an establishment has at least one security person for every 75 patrons. I don't know if that's currently how local establishments are being run. Maybe that best practice is already in play here in Revere, in which case that's wonderful. I obviously don't have time here today to outline the remaining 59 best practices that are mentioned in this 30-page document, but this is the kind of document that could really be looked at thoroughly by people on both sides of the issue to really weigh what's practical for Revere, what could actually be enforced here, what's impractical, what applies to New York that could only apply to New York because New York is as big as it is, but what's practical here for Revere. We would also suggest there be a needs assessment in order to ensure proper monitoring and enforcement of closing time protocols and any training needs, if they exist, for local bar staff and law enforcement. And finally, we would strongly recommend the creation of an ongoing task force of law enforcement representatives, coalition representatives, and bar and restaurant representatives who meet regularly to monitor issues as they arise and to promote cooperative interactions between these groups. Again, New York has a group like this, but our neighbor not too far away, Cambridge, has a similar one. In chatting with a colleague over there, my understanding is that they have a group of coalition members, health department officials, bar owners, and law enforcement, and they've worked together in the past to organize social marketing campaigns about targeting, responsible drinking habits, and also they've even organized festivals together in the community. So I leave you on that last point because I want to emphasize that there is room for collaboration here and open communication between folks on all sides of this issue. There are potentially heartbreaking stories that could occur at extreme ends of the spectrum on this issue. No one wants to see a single mom who is tending bar struggle to make ends meet because she's not making the tips that she once did. And no one wants to see a Revere resident bury a son or daughter who was killed by a drunk driver headed back to their home in a neighboring community with earlier closing hours. Ultimately, the final decision on the matter should be one that serves the needs of the maximum number of community members as possible and is grounded firmly in data and hard numbers. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record again, please.
Like I said, I've been in this city a long time. I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. Everything I just heard was just pure speculation. I mean, you want to write out a list for these guys? It's going to take probably 5 years. I mean, everything I heard was just pure speculation. You know, give it a try. If nothing else, give it a try. If you don't think it's right, if there's trouble, then bring these guys back up there. That's not too hard. Just give it a try. And I'm just saying that I've been in the city before she was born. And I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly in this city.
I mean, I would say to you that I don't disagree with a lot of the things she's saying. You know, there's a lot of good points she makes along the way, and I wouldn't discount any of those by any stretch of the imagination. Everything from, you know, perception and you know, I think everybody probably in this room who's lived in the city has had to overcome that perception. So I take what she says as valuable information. You know, when we come to the point when we make that decision, all of those things are going to weigh in. I'm not discounting what you're saying either, or any of the members in here that represent the restaurants in this city. I think in looking at this, you know, we want to look at both sides, and you know, my colleagues here will have an opportunity to comment and.
Well, like I said, I'm not here representing them.
I understand.
I'm here as a citizen of the city, a taxpayer.
Yeah.
And I own property in this city, and I'm concerned about my property and my area.
Mm-hmm.
And if I thought this was going to be bad, I'd be the first one up here, and I think the council will tell you that. I'd be the first one up here to say something. So I just say, give it a try. You know, give these guys a shot to make a living. I mean, come on, the economy's lousy right now. The city needs the revenue. And as far as somebody getting killed behind the wheel drunk driving, there's so much that happens outside of our city. We're the only ones. We're like in the middle, and everybody else is doing it whatever. I mean, give these guys, give the owners a break. I've seen the beach come a long ways, and that's why I'm here.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others that want to speak in opposition? I'll open up the floor to my colleagues and to comment.
Yes, sir. May I? Oh, sorry. I'm not from the opposition. Is that okay?
You're not from the opposition?
No.
You're in favor?
In favor.
You're in favor. Okay.
But I want to have a rebuttal of what was said. Is that okay?
Actually, that part of the hearing we already closed, unfortunately.
So we can't rebut any of the items that they said?
Yeah.
I just need 2 minutes to give a point of view, if you don't mind.
All right, please state your case.
Thank you. Sharok Reza from Wonderland Ballroom, and I come on behalf of about 100 employees that work there, and I'm not just wrapping it up really quickly. It was really offensive to connect the 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock to domestic dispute and alcoholism and all that stuff. These are real businesses with real people working in it. We've lost probably about 50% of our business in the past 5 years as a result of this issue to what's pretty much the standard as, actually I wanted to commend the young lady, like you said, she brought a lot of good points about New York City and all that. And unfortunately, New York is open until 5 o'clock in the morning, and Cambridge is open mostly until 2 o'clock in the morning. We're talking about Revere and the surrounding neighborhoods and communities. And I think the norm in the surrounding neighborhood and the communities has been 2 o'clock for the most part. And it has really put the businesses that are related to it in a really hardship with their employees, with their customers. I mean, the trickle-down effect of this, even, you know, the police department, the fire department, we used to do on an average of 7 or 8 shows a month. And now we're doing 2 shows a month. And go ahead, sir. So, you know, we've gone, even the police department and the fire department, you go down to the bookkeeper, to the cleaning people that clean the place, to overall business, we've lost 50, 60%. And like I said, these are real people. We have a variety of different people that work in our place. Most of them live in Revere. And they've been affected by this tremendously. And I honestly don't see the connection of domestic abuse and alcoholism to 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock of, you know, if, you know, like she mentioned, the free country that pretty much 99% of the surrounding communities have at 2 o'clock. And we're here telling our employees and telling our staff, you know, we've gone through so much turnover with our staff right now because we just can't keep them. And, you know, I know a lot of businesses have gone down and lost their businesses. I know a lot of them are very close to it. So the idea of, and I wanted to bring one more point about closing at 2 but serving until 1 o'clock. That puts the Revere businesses even a bigger hole. Now you're serving, now you have to have your employees be there for another hour while they're not making any revenues. So you're carrying the payroll without any revenues for another hour. So that idea really puts us in a really even worse situation than we're hanging on right now. We do that, we're out of business. Because now we have to support an hour of doing business without any contribution. But I do agree, as far as points that you guys, this commission has had rules and regulations that you folks have upheld. You've brought in different licenses, including us, for punishments and sanctions, and you've managed it very well while it was on 2 o'clock. And I think to have to go and create a subcommittee and spend another month and a half on doing that, or these are real businesses that are losing real fast. And why not implement what it was and make sure everyone knows these are your rules. You break those rules, every individual licensee will be accountable for, and they'll be sanctioned for, and you will uphold it. And that's it. I hope you guys make the right decision.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any other parties that want to speak in opposition? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public side of it, and I'll go to commentary on the commissioners.
I just, as far as Revere's Cares, I just wanted to clear up a couple of things. And I agree with you 100%. But alcohol has been here, it's going to be here long after we're all gone. And I think you're correct. Education is the best thing we can do. People are going to drink, it is out there. And I think to say, you know, we have to hold the bars responsible for our children going out there drinking. We have to teach them at home. And it's a lesson everybody should learn. Things do happen. I'm sure everyone here has a sad story about people who've had accidents while drinking and driving, but it is the family. The family has got to educate their children on alcohol. That being said, I agree with both sides. Of course, I've always worked well with Revere Cares. I do appreciate the bar owners and how they feel. And it's been a hardship, and I do understand we're saying 1 hour. Well, it's not 1 hour. If you're going out and it's 9:30 at night and you feel like just going out having dinner and drink, you're going to watch the hours if someone's last call is at 12:30 or 1:30, and I can appreciate that. As far as the staggering, as Revere Cares brought up, the staggering of the hours, we're fortunate in this city. We have a lot of wonderful restaurants. They bring up Renzo's, or we can talk Domeno's, we can talk Valari's, even Ravisi's on Revere Street. I don't know how many are actually going to take advantage of this 2 o'clock license. A lot of these restaurants I've spoken to, they don't care either way, whether the 2 o'clock is in or isn't. But obviously, if 2 o'clock were to pass, everybody's going to apply for it, and everyone will have to apply individually. I was on the board, yes, when we rolled the hours back, and I have to say, I don't regret rolling those hours back, no matter what the board decides today. I think it was a good thing. If anything, lessons have been learned. There were some bars that were out of control. Some of them have closed in the meantime, and it wasn't over the 1 o'clock rollback. I know 2 of them, it had nothing to do with the rollback of the hours. Did it hurt the businesses? I think it did. But there was a lesson to be learned here. A lot of problems were happening. It was the best thing we could do to get control of the city at that time. The people I see sitting here today, coming up, are not the ones that I was seeing every month. So I don't know where they are at this point. But the bars that were here every month since I've been on the board aren't here this evening speaking for that 2 o'clock license. But if we roll those hours back to 2 o'clock, they will be here. And the board members that I've sat with over the years, wonderful board members, I don't think they saw half of these people here as when we roll the hours back. So as a council has brought up, yes, the board did make that decision. Yes, we did hear from many cities and towns surrounding. So it wasn't just that we said, gee, today, 1 o'clock, we're closing down. It's made a big difference. I see in 5 years, it's great. I've seen restaurants, if you want to talk about places, well, we'll bring the Dublin. Look what's happened since we've rolled back. They've left. They know we weren't going to tolerate the problems. They've left. We have a wonderful restaurant there. As far as Revere Beach, Antonio's, Renzo's, even the Boulevard, wonderful restaurants. It's a pleasure to walk down there. So I think what we did, I will stick up for my board's vote, rolling the hours back to 1 o'clock. And I do see a big difference, and I've seen people respect their license more than they ever have while I've been on this board. That's all I have to say.
I'm not going to ramble on for a long speech. I think each side made a real compelling, argument for, keeping it, as it is, Revere Cares, or extending it to 2 a.m. I was a little surprised there's not more opposition here. Not sure why that is, and I'm surprised there's so many bar and restaurant owners here, which I was, a little surprised. So I think at the end of the day, economically, you've definitely stated and pushed that down, that you've really suffered the last 5 years, and continuing this way, a lot of you won't be in business moving forward. So depending on which way we go, I think we're definitely going to take both arguments in perspective, because again, there's great points on both ends. Again, I don't have a lot of things to say. I'm going to talk with my colleagues here, and then we'll render a decision.
I know this is an important issue. I know this is an important issue for all in Revere. I also look at this as a really exciting time for Revere. We've seen significant positive changes, even prior to Mayor Rizzo's administration, but more importantly through his administration. We've seen growth and investment from within the city and out. We've seen we're talking about new hotels, businesses, development. We've seen a lot of restaurants. I've traveled on the West Coast recently and in the Midwest. There are a lot of towns that you walk through, and they're ghost towns. I mean, there are empty storefronts, and nothing seems to sustain a business. And I think in some ways we're fortunate, but I also see our businesses struggling, because with with investment comes risk, and I think that businesses need every competitive edge to stay in business. And this is a diverse community. We've seen many different nationalities come up here and try to open up restaurants, and some have survived and others have not, just since the short time that I've been on this board. And for a lot of these people, that's their life savings. And you know, I think that you know, anybody who wants to invest in the city should have every opportunity to do so. You know, it means creation of jobs or providing additional hours for help. It brings additional revenue to the business. It brings taxes and fees to the city. And I think it improves the quality of life for the residents and visitors. I mean, we're in an area where we've got a jewel in the beach, and I just see down the road this area being very, very well attended by tourists and business owners. I want to see, you know, Revere prosper. I think there's some big investments coming down the road for Revere, whether it's the casino or whether the casino ends up somewhere else. I still think that it provides opportunity for us. You know, I want to support the mayor on this issue, but I also and I want to support the businesses. But I only want to support the businesses that are well run. And I think that the businesses that are going to be problematic, I think we come down hard on them. I don't want to be broad brushing, and I don't think anybody in any business, if you're investing money, that you would want to have certain restraints put upon you that you know, your competitors in other towns may have. And I don't think anybody here in this room would want that. So I want to give people who run their businesses well a good opportunity to do that. I mean, this board has demonstrated that it can come down hard, and I think that the members of this board are very, very sensitive to those issues. I mean, we closed Plaza Garibaldi. I mean, clearly problematic. And I think strong enforcement is the way to do that. So just because if the board decides that it goes to 2 a.m., we would be very, very strong on enforcement. And I don't think we're going back to the days of old. The days of roses and places of that, I think, are long gone. And nor would I think this board or anybody in this city would allow that to happen. It's not the same city. I mean, we're looking at investment in hotels, family restaurants. There's very few bars and restaurants or clubs per se, as they said years ago. I live here. My family lives here. Everybody on this commission lives here. I mean, we all have a vested interest in this city. My feeling is if there are complaints out there, we're going to act quickly and judiciously. I would also ask Chief Caffarelli, if this is passed, that he notify this board of any incidents, and if it truly doesn't work, and I find that hard to believe, but if it truly doesn't work, I have no reluctance in rolling back the hours. But I also would say to you that for those that don't toe the line, you know, I'm not necessarily going to recommend 1 a.m. I could recommend 12, 10, 11. It really depends upon the circumstances. But what I will not allow, if this passes, is I will not allow the city to be wide open in terms of how businesses are going to go about, you know, doing their business and not doing it in a proper way. I mean, it's great to see, you know, concerned citizens here. I've talked to elected officials. I've talked to law enforcement. I've talked to the chief. Community action groups like Revere, to me, are just super groups that have the interest of the city. Not every city has that. And you know, my recommendation is that when we take a vote, and depending on how it goes, I would like some input in you know, some of their ideas. I'm I'm not opposed to any ideas. I think they do great work, and I'm proud to have them in this community. But I want the city to attract business, visitors, tourists, and just vacationers. The North Shore years ago was known as the Gold Coast, and Revere was known as the gateway to the Gold Coast. And I'd like to see us return to that. I think we have the platform to do it. And so I want to make a recommendation to change the hours from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. for all pouring establishments in the city. Effective August 1st. And I want this commission will review all the fees and applications for the upcoming renewals in 2014. Are there any comments?
Commissioner, just one comment. When you say you're making a motion, won't each one, if you're saying August 1st, doesn't each bar have to fill out their own application and pay that fee? Because we don't do retro on anything. Right, you would have to charge, going by the ABCC, if they apply now for 2 o'clock license, and you're saying August 1st, they would have to get each individual bar that wants the 2 o'clock license would have to apply for it. We're not just going to give it to everyone. There may be some that, we'd look at a little closer. So I would think that you would have to get an application, and within the next couple of days.
Well, we've got to have the applications in. They've got to.
By the 17th, we would have to vote on the 17th if whoever applies.
Of August.
Would have to be, well, we have a meeting July 17th.
Correct.
But
Well,
if it were to go through, we would have to have the applications early enough to put on July 17th to be open by August 1st, if that's what you're
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we'll make it effective for August 1st with with the approval for August, the August meeting, which would be August.
But they would still have to get their applications.
They would.
Right.
But it gives them from now to the beginning of July.
So you're not talking on voting on them individually on the 17th? July
This meeting?
17th.
No, I'm not.
So they're just going to, whoever fills it out will automatically get this 2 o'clock?
No, whoever
license?
fills it out will come before us for the August 17th meeting.
August
15th.
17th. Oh, I thought you said you wanted it effective August 1st.
It's 2 weeks before that meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. So they can fill it out any time before the August meeting, I guess.
Does it have to be posted in the paper, Joe? It does. So that's the 2 weeks. That's why I'm saying by August 1st.
I'm not 100% sure on the hours change that it has to be. I think that's entirely up to the board, any hours change. So I don't think it has to be advertised for 2 weeks. We can check that out. But I don't think on the hours, as Councilor Simeone stated, we didn't notify them.
Okay, so let me be clear. Let me be clear
Make
on
your
that.
motion again.
Okay, let me be clear on this.
August 14th is the next.
Is the next
14th is the Wednesday in August.
Okay, 14th. Okay, so what my motion will be is that I'll make a motion to change the hours of operation from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. for all pouring establishments in the city, and all applications have to be in by August 1st in order to meet the criteria for the August. You have a correction. All right. So I'll make a motion to change the hours of operation for all alcohol licenses from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. In the city, and the applications have to be in by August 1st in order to make the August 14th meeting, which is a Wednesday. Is there a second on that motion?
I'm going to second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I would like to be recorded as being present.
Motion has been passed. All applications have to be in by August 1st in order to be heard at the meeting on Wednesday, August 14th.
We just did,
These would be for licenses that would only be good till the end of this year.
That is correct.
So they would have to reapply in November.
That's correct.
Once again, so.
That's correct.
And I take it you'll work out some kind of fee structure. I understand the reduction was like $200 that was rebated, so it would be
but you would have to
prorated.
pay a full year. They don't prorate. ABC doesn't prorate, right? And you would have to pay the $200.
So there'll be the $200 for those individuals who want a partial year license.
That want to have the rest of the year. The other thing, too, is I'm informed that our secretary will be leaving, be going on vacation the end of July. So if you're going to fill out an application, those that want to, I would get it in as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is the board is meeting on the 17th of July for regular business. No, there wouldn't be enough time for it to be published in the paper.
We don't have to have a change of an hour. No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Not for our change.
Oh, not for
We
our
have
change?
full authority.
Okay.
So if they want to,
Just, George, let me, so,
No, well, it'll be, the first meeting will be August 14th. The first meeting will be August, the first licenses to be heard would be on the 14th of August.
So I guess that was, so, no. So August 14th, should we have the application by August 14th and be approved, that takes immediate effect. That does not have to be approved by the ABCC. No.
I just want to mention one thing to the restaurant bar owners. On the 14th, it's probably in your best interest to be here, if all possible. I understand things come up. But again, it's not a slam dunk. Each individual bar will be evaluated. So I'm assuming everyone's in good standing or you wouldn't be here. So again, 14th, if your calendar is not already taken up, please make sure you're here. If our representative. Thank you.
Yes. No. No, it's just a change of hours. Monday?
Is it available now that we have applications on? Well, I mean, if the attorney wants to pick up a bunch of applications, let him take them. Counselor, if you want to, well, she's not going to be in tomorrow, so you would have to do it today.
I want to thank everybody today. I know this is a tough issue for everybody on both sides. I can't be more honest and say that this board wants to see restaurants prosper in this city. we want everyone to do right by their residents, employees, customers, but by the same token, this board, if an incident does happen and you have to come before this board will act very quickly and effectively. And I want to make that crystal clear to everybody. This does not give you, the ability to go out there and just do your own thing. Thank you very much. This meeting's adjourned. There is the board is meeting on the 17th of July for regular business.
So if someone fills up the application tomorrow morning, would they be heard about?
No, there wouldn't be enough time for it to be published in the paper. We don't?
Not for our change.
Oh, not for our change? Okay.
Just, Joe, just let me, so.
No, well, it'll be, the first meeting will be August 14th. The first meeting will be August, the first licenses to be heard would be on the 14th of August.
So I guess that was, no. So August 14th, should we have the application by August 14th and be approved, that takes immediate effect. That does not have to be approved by the ABCC. No.
I just want to mention one thing to the restaurant bar owners. On the 14th, it's probably in your best interest to be here, if all possible. I understand things come up. But again, it's not a slam dunk. Each individual bar will be evaluated. So I'm assuming everyone's in good standing or you wouldn't be here. So again, 14th, if your calendar is not already taken up, please make sure you're here. If our representative. Thank you.
Yes. No. No, it's just a change of hours. Monday.
Is it available now that we have applications on? Well, I mean, if the attorney wants to pick up a bunch of applications, let him take them. Counselor, if you want to, well, she's not going to be in tomorrow, so you would have to do it today.
I want to thank everybody today. I know this is a tough issue for everybody on both sides. I can't be more honest and say that this board wants to see restaurants prosper in this city. We want everyone to do right by their residents, employees, customers, but by the same token, this board, if an incident does happen and you have to come before this board will act very quickly and effectively. And I want to make that crystal clear to everybody. This does not give you, the ability to go out there and just do your own thing. Thank you very much. This meeting's adjourned.